Alright everyone, well, you're probably wondering what I think of the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie that just came out recently. First things first, yes, there's gonna be some minor to moderate spoilers. Anything major will be left out of here, but anyway, yes. If you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, turn the video off right now. Otherwise, yes. Obviously, as we know, video game-based movies don't really have the best history in the past, like Super Mario Brothers, Street Fighter, Double Dragon. But then you get some that are not so terrible. You know, like the first Mortal Kombat movie, Rampage, and so forth. So I didn't really know what to expect out of hearing that they're going to make a live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I was really skeptical on this one. Obviously, as we know, the Sonic the Hedgehog games, I was a big fan of. Well, mostly the old school ones from the 90s during the Sega Genesis versus Super Nintendo era. Sonic was like the headline mascot for Sega in general, just like Mario was for Nintendo. And, well, I grew up during that era. I watched the original cartoon, which obviously I didn't know up until a few years ago that he was voiced by the same actor who played Steve Urkel. Wasn't too big on the newer Sonic cartoons, you know, like Sonic X, for example, and most of the newer games with the newer characters that they added in, like Shadow and Silver and Amy and so forth. And even, of course, they changed the name of Dr. Robotnik to Dr. Eggman. I didn't really know what the point of that was. But anyway, yeah, as we know, the Sonic the Hedgehog games, especially making their transition into the third dimension, didn't really have the best history. You know, they were pretty much hit or miss over the years. And with this idea of putting Sonic the Hedgehog into the real world, yeah, we've kind of seen this in a video game before. And we all know how that turned out, to be exact. Yeah. So, I was thinking, is this going to actually be somewhat of a hit, or is it going to be like that in movie form, per se? You know, because we've seen this idea done before, especially with the same actor who's in this movie, coincidentally, James Marsden. Sorry if I mispronounced that name correctly. But yeah, we've seen this idea done before with that same actor, like Hop, and, you know, we've seen films with CGI characters like Garfield based off of classic cartoons. So I almost was thinking this was going to end up like that. And even after seeing the first trailer, which, yes, I agree with anybody else, the original design on Sonic's face just looked horrifying. I mean, the small eyes and everything. But thankfully the studio actually listened to the fans, all the negative reaction that it got, and decided, yeah, this just looks bad. We want to please the fans and give them exactly what they want to, so let's take the extra time we have to delay the movie release date and redesign Sonic's face. And they did just that. And I'm pleased to say, after seeing the first trailer and the redesigning of his face, it looks much, much better. I think anybody can agree with that. But even after all that, I still wasn't 100% sure whether this was actually going to be a hit or a miss. Thankfully, after the somewhat mixed to positive reception that this movie got, I was pleased with this one. It's not an A-plus film. It's good family fun entertainment. I like how, first of all, it starts out on a planet that resembles a video game. He's obviously CG, and he's voiced by Ben Schwartz. And he actually does a pretty decent job, and, well, as you know, it's one of those stories that, okay, the ideas behind this movie aren't anything new. You know, he's one of those characters that has extraordinary power to run fast. Everyone's after his power. He has to keep himself secret and all that. Otherwise, well, anybody will be after him to harness his extraordinary power. So he ends up having to be transported to the, well, planet Earth, as you know. And he still has to keep himself secluded, and he's basically alone. He's an outcast, and he enjoys life for the most part. You get that montage scene, but at the same time, you know, he wants to be recognized and wants somebody to be friends with. So he comes across James Marsden's character, who's obviously a cop in a small town in Montana. And yes, I find it funny how it's called Green Hills. There are some real interesting Easter eggs that make connections to the video games as well as the original cartoon that you'll notice along the way. But of course, his powers revealed to everybody else causes a blackout, and as you guessed, he's tracked down by the government and, well, wants to be used in science experiments and all that kind of nonsense. So yeah, it's another one of those kind of movies. Haven't seen that before, have we? But it's actually pretty enjoyable for the most part. So if you can just enjoy it for what it is, it's not actually that bad. It has a really good soundtrack. It has some pretty funny but rather silly gags and punchlines, you know. And of course, they hire none other than Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, to track him down. He has all the gadgets and drones. And yes, Jim Carrey, as we know, we haven't seen him for many years acting the way we're used to him acting in most films that he's famous for, like The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, and so forth. So I could say it's a nice welcome back for him. You could tell he's having a lot of fun, but maybe a little too much fun with this role. I was a bit iffy seeing him play a villain role because, well, he hasn't played too many villain roles in the past, except for one in that somewhat crappy Joel Schumacher Batman Forever movie, which, yeah, you really couldn't separate the actor from the character, so all you see was Jim Carrey. And you see him a lot in this movie. I mean, I was a bit iffy seeing how he doesn't really resemble Dr. Robotnik, except for that fake-looking mustache. And, well, yeah, eventually he does wear the same colored jacket as him. So, he wasn't half bad in this movie. The way he just doesn't give up, and the way he just, like, is in everyone's face, like, yeah, I'm in control, nobody pushes me around. That was really just something else that I haven't seen in a movie out of his performance before. And, well, of course, you're probably wondering what kind of plot would this movie have. Well, really simple plot, per se. Sonic has to use the rings to transport himself to another world, and he has to leave Earth, but as he's tranquilized by James Marsden's character, well, he gets tranquilized, accidentally drops one of the rings, opening up a world in San Francisco, where coincidentally he's heading to, and he drops the rings on top of a really tall tower, so it's up to him to head out there. He can run really fast, but he doesn't know where the hell he's going. So it's a road trip movie. It's one of those buddy-buddy type movies where he makes friends with him, has a good time, does all sorts of stuff, lives his life, goes to a bar, and even stops at the tourist trap, which is supposed to be, I guess, like a reference to the world's largest ball of twine. You know, how he goes there and is back in 2 seconds. It's really enjoyable. You get some action sequences where the Dr. Robotnik's drones chase after him. You know, his character's a fugitive because he's aiding him. One of those type of films. You know, it's a good fun time. For an hour and 40 minutes, it ain't as bad as you think. It's good family fun, for the most part. I love the characters' reactions, you know, human characters per se. Like anybody else would react to seeing a CGI hedgehog. It's just priceless. It's good, silly fun. I love the bar scene, and there's another scene like this where everything slows down, you know, because Sonic is really fast. So, and it almost reminds me of that scene from X-Men Days of Future Past, you know, when they're breaking Magneto out of the prison below the Pentagon. You know, everything slows down because of Charles Xavier and Quicksilver runs really fast. It's like that sort of, how he's able to do all that while everything is slowing down. There's also one of those scenes towards the end of the movie, and of course, it's a chase scene with him and Dr. Eggman. You get that showdown you know you're going to get towards the end of the film. And it takes some interesting surprises, twists, and turns as well. And not to mention, it's one of those where it's like, you know, it starts off at the end and you're probably like, yeah, let's start from the beginning a few days earlier. Yeah, another one of those kind of movies, which you haven't seen before, right? But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I love the Easter eggs, like when he eats chili dogs. I love even how towards the end of the movie, there's sort of a mix-up version of the Green Hill Zone music from the first Sonic game. I love the end credits, especially how they're designed to make it look like the video game, even though they took scenes from the movie. It's almost kind of reminds me of the end credits from Wreck-It Ralph a little bit, how it's in that 16-bit style of animation. And, well, the only thing I found a little annoying is some minor product placements, you know, with Olive Garden. I'm sure they're going to be profiting off of this a little bit, and, well, okay. That's about it right there. That's the only complaints I have. Other than that, it's nothing A+, or it's not an Oscar-winning film. It's just good, silly, fun time. That's all I have to say about it. Another thing I have to mention is, towards the end of the movie, yeah, there is a scene in the middle of the credits. What happens, I wouldn't dare give away, but definitely sit through it. All I could say is, I smell sequel right there. It's good, silly, fun, fast time. Speed is all you need, people. And speaking of which, that film is even shown briefly in this movie. It's all about the fast-paced, fun action. So, my final verdict is, rocking Wii Remote Wii Motion Plus up and the playing Wii Remote up. Trust me, it was fun. So, till next time, keep watching.